Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to talk about a bait that I feel like is really an effective tool and highly underutilized year-round, but specifically in the wintertime. I mean, it is a wintertime type bait, or it fits into that seasonal category very well, but it really is a lure bait technique that works year-round. And since we're moving into the winter, I wanted to touch on this bait or touch on this technique or this application for soft plastic baits. And I've talked about other variations of it, but I haven't really talked about this one. So that's what I'd like to do. And since I just talked about a couple of, shallower type baits like a lipless crankbait and the jig in my last video, I thought I would, talk about one that you're gonna be able to fish in shallow water, but it's extremely effective in deeper water. Before I get right into it, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down below, because I'd like to hear your thoughts on this video or any other video for that matter. Here we go. So the technique or presentation that I want to talk about today is the fish head spinner. Chin spin, some people call it a chin spin, some people call it an underspin. Basically, a fish head spinner is the technique that I'm talking about, or the presentation that I'm talking about, and why I call it a harness or a manner in which to present your soft plastic baits. Because typically when I'm fishing these fish head spinners, I'm either fishing them with a swim bait on the back or a soft jerk bait or fluke type bait as a trailer on the back of this. And these guys have been really good to me anytime the fish are relating to bait. And as you come out of the fall and into the winter, fish are gonna be grouped up on bait. And the number one thing for getting, bites on this is gonna be finding the bait out there. You're gonna have to use your electronics, graph around, look for the bait, and then make this presentation down there and slow roll it. And that might be deep, it might vary. In some places you might be in the back of a major tributary, big creek, and it might be down around the creek channel or down around the bottom in say 8 to 12 foot of water, or you may be down by the dam on a clear water impoundment, and that might be 30 to 40 to 50 feet of water. So the size of the head you're gonna use is gonna vary. I've really done well with like 1/4 ounce and a 3/8 ounce, but there's a 1/2 ounce size as well that you can fish, and I've caught them out to 20, 25, 30 feet of water, and I've caught them targeting suspended fish out over open water. So one of my favorite ways to fish it is around brush piles. And of course, as we move through the fall and into the winter, fish are going to gather around brush piles, which makes this an effective technique for that. Obviously, the open hook can get hung up, but what I've noticed about it, if you just kind of worm it through there, and sometimes you'll get hung up, you'll shake that rod tip and it'll pop free, and then that little spinner is back in motion. And basically this is like a little spinner bait. I like to throw it out there and just begin a slow retrieve, get that spinner moving along really nicely, and that flash is super subtle with these little blades like this. And what I found is I feel like it draws attention to the swim bait, draws attention to the presence of something in the water. And this is the action or the flash that draws the fish. And then when they see the swim bait, well, it's just pretty much a done deal. They go for the swim bait and they eat that, or the soft jerk bait. I've probably done as well with the soft jerk bait on the back of one of these as I have the swim bait. So really, sometimes they want that boot style tail just wagging back and forth, and sometimes they want something real subtle, just quivering back there, like that little fork tail on this soft jerk bait. So you want to kind of play with some different trailer styles to see which one they want. On any given day, they may want the big swagger of a swim bait boot tail, and then on another day, they may just want something super finessey and just kind of vibrating back there. Believe it or not, that little blade is gonna actually kick out a little bit of vibration. This is a more thinner one. This is actually a razor blade, so spins at a very slow retrieve or speed or rate of retrieve. But there's some different ones that I've played with over the years. This is a Bass Pro Shops XPS blade. As you can see, a much different, a wider style blade. And so this one's going to gather a whole lot more vibration and make that body and the head and the swim bait all kind of vibrate and actually just have more action to the bait. But again, like anything, you want to pay attention to whether they're wanting something that's more subtle. And in clear water, that's something that they generally do want, something more subtle. And then sometimes when there's a little bit more stain in the water, then maybe something with a little bit more vibration. Obviously, when you're playing with blade sizes, when you're running one that's wide like this is going to have a tendency to make the bait ride higher in the water column. This style of wide willow leaf is going to have a tendency to make that bait ride higher in the water column at the same rate of retrieve that you would even with the smaller one. The smaller one's going to have a tendency to let that bait fall in the water column. So keep that in mind. And then sometimes, you know, you might want to play with gold. But chrome is generally what I go with, but chrome or gold as a spinnerbait blade on the backs of these little fish head spinners are just great. I've, over the years, made some of my own. This is one of them that I've made, and I've caught a lot of fish on those. Places that I'm going to want to fish these fish head spinners. Number one, I mentioned bait. Number two, I mentioned cover like brush piles, but bridge pilings, bridge abutments, rip-rap rocky banks, places where you can find bait fish. And actually, I feel like it's great if you have some sort of vertical cover, and either vertical cover and or vertical structure. So it might be pole timber. It might be the break on a creek channel. You might have a break, and that vertical drop can be where those fish relate to. But as we move out of the fall and in towards the winter, fish are going to relate to those more vertical type things so that they can position themselves based on the current conditions, higher in the water column or drop down lower in the water column. And vertical cover is a great place for them to make that adjustment without having to move horizontally too far. So kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes you're just going to want to take that little fish head spinner and just bomb it out on the end of a long point and just slow roll it. Well, first let it sink all the way to the bottom on a slack line. Once it hits the bottom, your line will just really draw slack. Like you'll feel that as the whole bait is falling in the water, your line will be somewhat tight. And then once it gets to the bottom, it'll just lay slack on the surface. And that's how you know you're down on the bottom. And then I'm going to want to pick up my rod slightly and then begin retrieving it. And I might pop it once or twice to kind of kickstart the blade and get that thing moving, get that momentum and everything moving along. And then I would like to trace the bottom and sometimes run it into the bottom, you know, let it fall back down. Now you're going to lose these. And so and the reason why you're going to lose them because you're fishing an open hook presentation in and around cover and or structure, and you're bottom bouncing it. You're moving it around. And with any bait, over time, you're going to lose a couple. So be prepared. Carry a couple with you to the lake. If you're not familiar with this bait, I suggest you grab some of these. They're going to put some fish in the boat for you right through winter. And then you'll find out just how versatile it is, if you haven't already, for the rest of the year. Great around the shad spawn. Great in the fall, obviously, but great when the fish are schooling also. And just a great fish producer. It's like a miniature spinnerbait without a skirt and with a soft plastic tail. Really, again, make sure that you have a couple of different varieties, couple different sizes, maybe even some colors. Here's my actual box of some of my homemade ones. And then the Strike King Tour Grade spin head is also in there. Comes in a package like that. So, you know, try some different sizes, some different colors, and some different swim bait trailers, so to speak, and fish it low and slow or wherever they are located in the water column. If they're up there high and they're kind of below balls of bait, try to count it down to where you feel like that zone is and slow roll that through there and try to catch some fish doing that. A quick tip on the fish head spinner, the chin spin, the underspin, whatever you want to call it, a tremendous fish catching tool, something I really don't talk about. It is something when I do pick it up, I generally do get bites, and then it makes me wonder why in the world I don't throw that thing more. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel, and until next time, good fishing.